Hey friends, so welcome to DBC Facebook Live. We have a special book birthday today. Ride with Emilio has a release today, and we are very, very proud of this project. We have the author and his wife on the call with us today, as well as our publisher, Dave Burgess. So this is just a really exciting moment. If you're watching this on the playback, please do head over in the comments, tell us who you are, where you're from, and if you are watching us live, then most definitely head over to those comments. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and remember all the entries that are comments. Comments are your entry to win a free book. So we will be giving away one of these books at the end of the day this afternoon. So be sure, get your comments over there. If you have some questions for Richard, ask them. But before any further delays, I would love to introduce our author, Richard Nares. We are so very proud of this project and the work that you've put into this project, Richard. So if you don't mind, please do formally introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are, what you do, and why you decided to write Ride with Emilio.
Well, again, I am the author and illustrator of Ride with Emilio, and it's just been a real passion of mine to tell our story of our journey with our only son, Emilio. And in a real brief nutshell about the story, here's a little boy that inspired a movement, let's say, to really inspire us to make a difference in many families, and to provide transportation to families who have difficulties getting to and from their appointments. So this little boy has encouraged and inspired Diana to make that happen. And believe it or not, this year, Ride with Emilio is celebrating 1 million miles of transportation. That's over 4,000 children being driven. But 1 million miles equates to 40 times around the Earth at the equator, or 2 round trips to the moon. So we have made a difference, but it was truly our inspiration from our son.
It is such a beautiful story, and it's just incredible. When you and I were talking, when I first met you, and you were telling me a little bit about this story, you talked to me about your hopes for the readers. And so I was hoping that you could share a little bit about just exactly what you shared with me, with our audience here today.
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to. And again, it's a story about two parents whose child just transformed their life. And like all parents, he was the center of our universe. And we had 3 incredible years of being that ideal family. We had the perfect home, a wonderful, healthy child. But again, it struck us when he got diagnosed, just like all parents, you can't prepare for cancer diagnosis. And it's really so devastating, it's shocking and paralyzing. So I want the reader to get from this book how we turned our tragedy into something very positive. It does take time, but you don't know what you can withstand. And most people say, oh, we could never do this and do that. But Diane and I are just 2 people that really saw a need, but were inspired of what we saw our son go through, but many families go through. The lack of transportation, the lack of conversation with one another, just family support. Diane and I come from 2 large families, Hispanic and Italian, so we had a ready-made support system, but many families we witnessed did not have that. So the book really wants to ensure that there is hope for families, even though they're going through something very trying or tragic. Again, this story is about love, loss, grief, and giving back. And it's important to know that regardless of what you face in life, you can give back. And there's a brighter side to it. It's not easy sometimes to see it, but I think this book really will help the reader understand that there is hope regardless of what tragedy we all face in life.
Now, Richard, I wanted to mention here that one of the amazing parts of this story to me, when I first met you and Diane, we had a little coffee right there, right, close to your neighborhood, and you mentioned that this started with you going to the hospital and saying, like, how can we help? What can we do to support? And this started with your own car. You started to pick up children in your own car and then saw this build and expand and grow and gain support. So maybe if you could take us back to that early beginning where, I mean, you were, I think, in your Buick.
That's right.
Taking children to the hospital.
You have a very good memory, Dave. That's absolutely correct. And again, after Emilio had passed away and Diana decided to do what we could for families, I would volunteer at the hospital and just be there as a sounding board for newly diagnosed families so they could talk to a parent that had gone through it. And as we began our journey going to the hospital, we really witnessed so many more families struggling with basic transportation. Here in California, many people don't think about the lack of cars, but there are many families that don't own cars. And when a child is diagnosed with cancer, it's so important that they get to their treatment on time, every time. So the story goes, and it's illustrated in the book. There's a picture of me driving families in my own car because I was told 2 stories about 2 teenage boys who were waiting for a bus and a trolley, 2 separate incidents where they were beaten and robbed after their chemo. They didn't have a car, so they had to take the bus back to school. And when I heard that story, it struck me so deeply, because still being a parent, what would happen if that happened to my child? So I just took the steps of using my own car, and I would pick up the family and the patient and take them to the hospital. But after about 6-7 weeks, I got so many requests, I couldn't pick up every family. So I worked with an oncologist there, social worker, and we came up with a plan on how we could be effective. And many people told us, other foundations told us that it's too overwhelming, too expensive. But as again, Emilio's strength and me being determined as a parent to help kids, we found a way. And I started writing grants for our project. And within a year, I had raised over about $130,000, $150,000 because everyone thought this was a great idea, but no one wanted to tackle it because it was expensive and there's liability. But we had a good, solid plan. And we knew there was a need. So we were not going to let up until we found a solution, and Ride with Emilio was born.
Yeah, and the fact that it grew so organically like that, starting from your car, and then you were able to gather the support, just I think really is a testament to how much need there was for this service. And so it's been a very powerful movement, and we're certainly proud to be a part of it through this book. We have an interesting connection in that the reason a lot of our authors I've met through education or through Twitter or social media conferences, but we actually met a different way. And you were brought into the Dabers consulting world a different way. And that is that we happen to share the same chiropractor, Dr. Chad Wells, who I refer to as the shaman because he's done so much to be able to get me back out there running and all that. And so one day he told me your stories, and he knew that I was a publisher. He said, you know what? Maybe you should talk to Richard and Diane. And I said, let's go, let's do it. And so that was our connection, came through our mutual chiropractor.
It's amazing how we're all connected somehow so closely. And Chad Wells has been a big advocate for ENF. And I'm sure you know about the runs that I've done. And in 2013, I ran from San Francisco to San Diego. And he came up, he drove the car up the coast on his own dime and came and worked on my legs a couple of times. And then in 2018, I ran from Seattle to San Diego as a fundraiser for Ride with Emilio. And again, he did the same thing. He's just an incredible person. Not saying, and just an incredible connector. I mean, he knows so many people, but a big heart, and we owe him a lot because he brought you and he brought the charity runners to us. He's just a wonderful person.
So,
yeah, and so
quick though, Dave, when I met Richard, he said, I think he said something like, yeah, I kind of like to run. And so I told Dave that. He said he kind of he runs, but I mean, you didn't really make a big deal of it. And Dave goes, oh, he runs. He sent me this article of you running from Seattle
Mm.
to San Diego, visiting children's hospitals all along the way. I was blown away by that. That's huge. That's a lot of running. And that's not like I run, just sometimes. And so I thought that was just such a cool story. And every person I've met since then, I've been telling them about this book coming. And I'm like, you got to check out the author. He did this fundraiser and he like ran from Seattle. Like I'm blown away by this story. It's pretty
Well,
impressive.
it was an incredible journey, and again, the goal was to bring ENF to these different hospitals and the awareness and the need for transportation. But ENF is a lot more than just transportation. We have wonderful programs, but there's also Emilio's Loving Tab shirt, which is also illustrated in the book, and the need for that too. Transportation provides them to get to the hospital in time, and the shirt provides the child, the patient, comfort, because we know how stressful cancer is. And when you're dealing, especially with small children, that their privacy is just, they don't have any. And they hate to take off their shirt. And I'm sure I told Dave the stories that Emilio would really hate it when he had to get access to his portacap. So this shirt that has the snaps that allows the nurse to access his portacap or Hickman without taking or removing the shirt. So that shirt, along with Ride with Emilio, was really one of the driving forces for me to get to different hospitals and let them know what we're doing and how we could help them.
I love too on your website where you talk about one of the programs is the snack bags you guys provide for the kids after their treatments.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, those, again, it grew organically because these programs, because we saw the need and we were really trying to do something that we could be effective and sustainable. So all these programs really were thought out, but the main goal is to be sustainable, because when you're in the hospital, and as a former being there with our son, is that you really count on programs and services because your world is so like this, and it's hard for you to think about anything else. So when you go to the hospital, you just expect these things. So when we provide the snack bags, we provide transportation, we provide these shirts, families really appreciate them because they know they can count on ENF, which is extremely important. And so the snack bags, again, came out of taking Emilio to the hospital when he had to have procedures, and he would wake up. The only thing that was accessible to the patient or the family were these vending machines that had Cokes, Cheetos, and really not really healthy. So we decided that we would want to provide the parent with a snack bag that the child would get. So those snack bags are thoroughly have everything endorsed by the hospital with their nutritionists. So they're all safe, they're all shelf stable. So there's a lot of thought that goes into these programs. And you wouldn't think like a snack bag's so important, but when you have a really hungry child that wakes up after procedure, and you can't leave them because they'll start screaming or crying, as a small child does, like Amelia would do. These bags are passed out by either the parent liaison or the nurse. So everything is done according to procedure, and we're really proud of our programs because we know that they're very effective.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And another thing that we're proud of, this is the type of thing which, just like telling Tara that you run a little bit, when actually you run
What?
more than anyone I know. Yeah. We're proud to say our last author that we had on was a citizen recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor, and now we have a CNN hero in the line. And so maybe if you could tell us a story about how that happened and how, what it was like to go through that process, and the media around being a CNN hero and all that. I mean, what a fantastic honor that was.
No, it truly is, and it keeps on giving, to tell you the truth, because I'm still connected with CNN and different writers there. And so it's been a real blessing for us, and it really helps bring awareness to ENF. So that's very true. ENF, when you're a CNN hero, you're nominated by a friend or acquaintance and something. So when I got nominated, they said, "Oh, I nominated." Just okay, you never really expect it because they get like 10,000 submissions. And so one day I got a phone call and they said, we're from CNN. And I almost said, are you kidding me? and they said, no, we've received your nomination and we'd like to know more about you. And I said, okay, still a little suspicious. So we started talking and what we do. And they said, okay, we'll call you back. They called me back and they said, well, we're going to come out and visit because we want to see what you really do. So once they come out and visit, they establish your credibility. They ask such thorough questions. You're totally vetted. They talk to hospital staff. We didn't know who they were going to talk to. So they really find out a lot about nominating CNN Hero. So I got to be a CNN Hero, which was fantastic. And I never knew that I would ever go any further than that. Just to be a hero is fantastic enough because for that 1 week, you're focused at everything. So after that goes by towards the end of the year, I got another phone call from them and said, well, you're going to be in the top 10 CNN Heroes. So that's a whole nother level because that reaches out globally, right? And you have a chance to be the top CNN Hero, but it's all by votes. So there were 10 of us that were on this voting panel to be voted on. So it went worldwide. And then in November of that year, they invite us to come to New York where the presentation will be. And so as a top 10 hero, you're given a chance to speak what you do on a worldwide audience. And it was such an incredible experience because CNN really takes care of their people when you're a hero. It's not one and done. They really stress that when you become a hero, you're part of the family and your outreach will be tremendous. So over the years, I have kept up with CNN and I have gone back to talk to new CNN heroes to tell them about my experience, but also the valuable exposure it has given ENF. Mm-hmm. And so that night, though I didn't win the CNN Top Hero, I was still able to get $40,000 for the foundation. And the person that won the $250,000 each gave us $10,000 because he was that kind of person. So that family of our heroes, we still keep in touch. We still support one another. And we still are always chatting about our foundation and what has happened. But CNN, I can't tell you enough how valuable that is. In fact, I've had other people in the nonprofit want to know how they could be a hero. So I don't have that power. I can tell them that it's an extraordinary experience. And we were also connected with the Annenberg Foundation. If you don't know about the Annenberg Foundation, people in the nonprofit do because of what their ability to help change organizations financially, but their exposure. And when you become a CNN hero, a top 10 CNN hero, you're in an alumni club that you get to use the Annenberg Foundation for growth for the foundation. They put us up for 2 days, all expenses paid, to give you a refresher in the nuts and bolts and how to be an effective foundation. Not only board, but also how to tell your story, how to outreach, the best practices. And this that they normally charge for this is like $10,000. It was all free for each of the top 10 heroes. And then on top of that, they wrote us a check for $10,000. So again, Annenberg and CNN have been a real saving grace for us.
Yeah. Well, so another thing that's kind of unique about this project, Richard, is now we have some picture books in our line, but typically like Tara's what Cannonball in, but Tara's not the illustrator of that book. You not only are responsible for the words, but also for the illustrations. And I know that was something when I met with you two was something that was very important to you. I mean, it's your son, it's Emilio. You have in your mind a vision of what you want your project to look like, what you want the artwork to look like, what you want your child to look like in the book. And so you took it all on and did all the illustrations as well. And so maybe if you could share with us what's your background in. I mean, that's a very rare skill to be able to illustrate a book. So maybe you could share your background as far as art and all of that.
Well, I've always from a very young age, I was always interested in art and being a painter from a very young age. And I went through school, high school, college, majoring in art. That's my major is studio art painting. And behind me, you can see one of my seascapes. Which way? That way, right there. That's one of my paintings. But I'm a plein air painter, so painting and drawing has always been my passion. But when I thought of Emilio, I mean, and to do a story, it just kind of came out. It was so passionate that it just flowed out, and I just wanted to show the way I would want Emilio to look and to tell our story through my own hands, so to speak, because it's so, to me, precious. In our house here where he grew up has so many memories. I think only I could have illustrated it the way it had to be done. And so it's really, again, when people get a chance to open that book up, they'll really see not only words and pictures, but really part of our house that this little boy grew up in. All that story is, like I said, just an incredible journey, but it had to be done by my own hands.
I agree 100%. And then for everyone who's watching, again, if you put in the comment and on the side there, you'll be entered to win a copy of Ride with Emilio. And it's also important to note that you'll be contributing to ENF by buying the book as well. So you'll be helping to support creating these opportunities for transportation for children by supporting the book. And that's something, that we're all proud to be a part of. And so, Tara, what else do you have for us?
That's it. And thank you so much. We are just so honored to publish this book, to share it with the world. I think a lot of people are going to find it as a source of hope. And, Richard, when you and Diane and I were all talking, we were just talking about how this feeling of feeling like we're not, like we're just one or two people and maybe we can't really make a huge difference, and how we really, I feel like this book not only gives us hope for kids with cancer or anything that they're battling, but it gives us hope to know that in any situation where it's unfortunate and things are thrown at us and we didn't choose that, but we have to figure out a way to keep overcoming, that we can make a difference, that we can find ways to provide hope for others. And when I read this book, it just makes me smile. It gives me a lot of hope too. And I know there's sad parts, but the parts that when I left reading this book, I felt like, okay, like this foundation is making a difference for so many people. 2 people can make a huge difference in the world. And you and Diane have really shown us that through Emilio. So thank you so much for that.
Well, no, thank you. It's been a real blessing to work with all of you. And I've said you're an incredible team, but you're exactly right. This book's not just for cancer patients. This is for anyone who has suffered a tragic loss or feels that they can't do anything. 2 people like us can do it. In fact, it's okay. I'd just like to get my
yes.
There she is.
Thank you so much for your support and for making this happen. It's so important to us and to the world. And we just hope that by people buying the book and reading the book, you'll be supporting the work of ENF, and also lives will be inspired.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an absolute honor to work with both of you on the project.
Well, thank you so much. Dave, you want to close us out for the day?
Go ahead. I feel like I'm about to.
A coughing fit. That always happens. When the waiter comes by and asks how you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining in today. If you're watching this on the playback, we will leave those comments open throughout the night. So check back tomorrow to see who has been the lucky winner. If you aren't the lucky winner, no worries. Click up in the link above. Purchase the book. Your funds are going for a great cause. They are going to support ENF. So it's a great cause to help little children make it to their cancer treatments and get all the support that they need. And so thank you, Richard. Thank you, Diane. Thanks, Dave. And thanks everyone
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.